This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has shed light on Algeria's new approach for the enshrining of good governance, saying that Algeria's economic and financial indicators are positive. The President also reiterated Algeria's constant position in favor of Palestine until it gains independence. As Ireland and the World Health Organization called for an end to the massacres of civilians in Gaza, more attacks have been launched by the Israeli army, killing at least 27 Palestinians. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, said colonization left Algeria devastated, stressing that the Algerians are the legitimate holders of an unalienable right and that colonizers must recognize the killings and massacres committed against Algerians. Asya Bekkar has more details.
The president said Algeria's former colonizers claim to be bearers of civilization while boasting of having plundered skulls, considering them as trophies. The president then said that they have to clean up the sites they contaminated with their nuclear tests in southern Algeria, adding that they must recognize the crimes committed against the Algerian martyrs. He highlighted that Algerian martyrs are worth more than billions of dollars. Thus, Algeria does not need a financial compensation, but a moral one.
قلنا ما نطالب منك باش تعتذر الشيء اللي داروا جدودك، بالاقل اعترف. الشهيد نتاع المقاومه، الشهيد نتاع الكفاح المسلح، ملايير دولارات ما ترجعوليش وقيمته اغلى من هذا الشيء. ما نطالب منك تعوض لي ماليا، ما نطالب منك تعوض لي معنويا، اعترف باللي كانت هذا الشيء صار، ماهيش خرافات.
Regarding the Palestinian cause, the president reiterated Algeria's constant position in favor of Palestine until it gained independence. As for the Sahrawi issue, the president said the autonomy plan is a French idea and not a Moroccan idea, stressing that the settlement options they propose to resolve the issue are choices between bad and worse, given that the Sahrawi cause is an issue of decolonization and self-determination.
The President of the Republic also expressed that his commitment to deliver a speech before the representatives of the people comes as part of the new approach of managing public affairs for the enshrining of good governance. In a speech to the nation he made before the two houses of parliament at the Palais des Nations, the President said his speech before the representatives of the people came in recognition of the representatives of the nation.
بمخاطبة الشعب الجزائري والرأي العام الوطني من خلال ممثليه وغرفتي البرلمان. إن هذا الالتزام يعبر عن الإرادة السياسية التي تبني منهج جديد في إدارة الشأن العام وتكريس مبادئ الحكم الراشد ولإطفاء تقاليد تحيي وتعزز خدمة الرأي العام والمواطن والوطن.
Referring to dialogue, President Tebboune stressed that dialogue requires calm wisdom and the strengthening of the internal front.
لقد وعدت الطبقة السياسية للبلاد بفتح حوار لتعزيز أولا استقلالنا وتقوية الجبهة الداخلية، وسيكون ذلك إن شاء الله بصفة منظمة، بحيث سنبدأ أولا بمراجعة قوانين الجماعات المحلية. من أين تنطلق السيادة الشعبية في بدايتها. قانون البلدية وقانون الولاية مع الجميع سيراجع، وأعتقد أن جاءت نسخ لكل منهم هم الأمر، منتخبين ورجال سياسيين وغيرهم، حتى يبدو رأيهم باش ننطلق انطلاقة جديدة في إعادة بناء هرم الدولة، دولة الحق والقانون وبداية ديمقراطية الحق.
Regarding the national economy, the President indicated that Algeria's economic and financial indicators are positive, and even international institutions recognize Algeria's growth, highlighting that these indicators show that Algeria is on the right track.
اليوم بعد تجاوز صعوبة تحديات المرحلة التي سهرنا خلالها على تجسيد تطلعات الشعب وعلى استعادة الثقة في مؤسسات الدولة، دخلنا في مسار كسب رهان التنمية الوطنية. التنمية الاقتصادية نموذج اقتصادي جديد بدأ يأتي أكله، لأن اليوم الأرقام اللي عندنا الأرقام الاستدلالية على الاقتصاد والمنبثقة من تقارير السلطات الدولية الحمد لله كل المؤشرات خضراء.
President Tebboune then stressed that the state's budget currently amounts to $130 billion, adding that Algeria is positioning itself among the emerging countries. He added that the GDP has risen and exports are not restricted to hydrocarbons anymore, which reflects the economic growth achieved by the country.
اليوم ميزانية الدولة راها دور حول 130 مليار دولار، شيء لا يستهان به. الجزائر اليوم دخلت حطت رجلها في البلدان الناشئة، لبيي إمرجا، كل المؤشرات تاعنا تدل على ذلك. الدخل القومي ارتفع وما زال يزيد يرتفع، أصبحنا نصدر خارج المحروقات، معناه فيه حيوية وحركية اقتصادية على مستوى القاعدة. 62 سنة بعد الاستقلال دخلنا في مرحلة الجد في استغلال حقيقة ثرواتنا باش ما نبقاش أسير للأسعار تاع النفط.
After recalling the existence of mines ready to be exploited, the President of the Republic indicated that the railway line that will be extended to the province of Tamanrasset will contribute to exploiting very significant mineral resources, stating that the port of Oran will receive the first shipment of iron from Rajbilet in 2026.
بالنسبة للمناجم ما كان حلم بالأمس أصبح يتجسد كحقيقة اليوم. ميناء وهران سيستقبل أول شحونات تاع منجم الحديد تاع رجبيلت في بداية 2026.
Regarding the energy sector, the President of the Republic noted that Algeria has achieved self-sufficiency in electricity and has a surplus of 12,000 megawatts for exportation. As for agriculture, the President affirmed that Algeria's agriculture has reached a production amounting to $37 billion. The President then called on the Algerians living abroad to invest in their country, reassuring them that the investment law will remain unchanged for 10 years. Meanwhile, the President of the Republic also mentioned the startups through which young Algerians have been able to take up the challenges, now turning the production in several areas for the benefit of the country. He then welcomed the meeting of the African startups in Algeria, the first to be held in our country since independence. Meanwhile, the President spoke about the housing sector, stressing that housing is no longer a burden for the state because the projects are currently built with Algerian materials, which was not the case in the past. Regarding the purchasing power, the President of the Republic indicated that it will increase by 53% during this term, especially that the country is expecting an increase in its revenues thanks to the speeding up of the production dynamic. The Minister of State in charge of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energies, Mohamed Al-Qab, and the Minister of Water Resources, Tahar Derber, are paying a working visit of inspection to the western city of Oran to inspect several major projects to be put into operation. The visit mainly aims to monitor the progress of the proceedings of vital infrastructures within the framework of the development plans of the energy and hydraulic sectors. The two ministers will also inspect certain energy infrastructures as well as other projects related to the supply of drinking water in Oran province, notably those concerning the Cap Blanc seawater desalination. Earlier, the energy minister said the exploitation of lithium will make of Algeria a key player in green technologies and will consolidate its place in the global energy value chain. This came as the existence of lithium was confirmed in the south of the country. The member of the Council of the Nation and of the Coalition of Arab Women Parliamentarians Against Violence Against Women, Nouara Souhaidia Jafar, took part via video conference in a conference on the Palestinian women detained in the Israeli occupation jails. Asabir Kar has more details in this report.
The conference was organized by the General Union of Palestinian Women in partnership with the Palestinian non-governmental organization against domestic violence against women, Al-Muntada, and with the participation of MPs, politicians, lawyers, and specialists in international law. During the meeting, the participants examined the tragic situation of Palestinian women prisoners in the Israeli occupation's jails before examining the mechanisms for solidarity with these women within a context marked by the continuation of the crimes of genocide, forced displacement, torture, and arbitrary arrest against all categories of the Palestinian people, both in Gaza and in the other occupied Palestinian territories. On the occasion, Ms. Jaffer said that the barbarity of the Israeli occupation thrives on the support it receives and the international silence surrounding its crimes against humanity, condemned by all reports, stressing that the occupation practices in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories cannot be anything else but a war of extermination and ethnic cleansing against all the laws and customs and the principles enshrined in international humanitarian law. At the end of the conference, participants called for legal actions to be extended to the situation of Palestinian women detainees and the violations they are subjected to be brought officially before the UN bodies, as well as for an international campaign to ensure their protection.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. As Ireland and the World Health Organization called for an end to the massacres of civilians in the Gaza Strip, more attacks were launched by the Israeli army on the territory, killing at least 27 Palestinians. According to Palestinian sources, over 45,500 people have been killed in the Israeli bombardments targeting the territory for over 1 year. The Israeli army relentlessly pursued their bombardments of the enclave, targeting notably 3 hospitals, including the Kamal Adwan Hospital's director. In this connection, the Euromed Human Rights Monitor described the assault launched by the Israeli forces against the Kamal Adwan Hospital as serious crimes it has documented thanks to the testimonies. The organization stressed that such crimes include deliberate murders, summary executions, as well as physical and sexual abuses, targeting girls and women among the medical staff members and other displaced women. This came as Ireland's foreign minister urged for a halt to be put to the killing of civilians in Gaza, as the Israeli army intensified its attacks, mainly on the enclave's northern part. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, has said that the healthcare system in Gaza is subject to severe threats, calling for an end to the attacks on hospitals. Mushood Sharfi has more details in this report.
Director General of the World Health Organization, WHO, said that the population in Gaza need health care and humanitarian workers need medical assistance, stressing that Al-Wafa and Al-Ahli hospitals have been damaged by Israeli army attacks. He stressed that WHO, in cooperation with its partners, has delivered necessary medical supplies, food and water to the Indonesian hospital. The Director General of WHO called on the occupying authorities to respect the health needs of patients and to release the Kamal Adwan's hospital director Hassan Abu Safiya, now detained with scores of members of the medical staff. The deliberate targeting of the healthcare infrastructure has caused the killing of 1,060 healthcare workers, the destruction of around 130 ambulances, and the deprivation of many citizens of basic medical services. UN organizations have warned that the amount of medical supplies entering Gaza is insufficient for supporting a medical response and that all medical evacuation operations outside of Gaza are still suspended.
The envoy to Sudan of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development IGAD in Eastern Africa has announced his plans to pay a visit to the country in January, where he is attempting to mediate a year after the government loyal to the army froze its relations with the organization. The IGAD Special Envoy to Sudan, Lawrence Korbendi, has said that a visit to Port Sudan is planned for the new year. Mr. Korbendi added that during the visit he will discuss questions linked to peace in the country without giving details on whom he might meet. Mr. Korbendi said that the visit had originally been scheduled for December before being postponed to January. He stressed that he was looking for constructive dialogue regarding peace in Sudan and, most importantly, the return of Sudan's activities within IGAD. Mr. Korbendi said that his mandate purpose was to bring peace to the Sudanese people, and there is no other way than to talk to all the parties to this conflict. Let's recall that IGAD has tried on several occasions to mediate between the two generals. The Sudanese government has firmly rejected the speculation report issued by the United Nations indicated that famine has spread to 5 regions in Sudan. In a communique issued, the Foreign Ministry said it totally opposed to the situation of famine depicted by the UN report, affirming that the IPC has issued outdated data while finalizing the report rather than coordinated with the government's technical team. The UN Integrated Food Security Phase Classification IPC system has reported that 638,000 individuals are facing catastrophic levels of hunger, while an additional 8.1 million others are on the brink of famine. In a similar move, the International Rescue Committee, RRC, has affirmed that Sudan is going through the worst humanitarian crisis ever recorded, as 25 million people are facing high levels of food insecurity. The conflict raging in Sudan since 2023 has claimed thousands of lives and displaced over 12 million people. Now, the South Korean authorities have requested an arrest warrant for impeached and suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol after his short-lived declaration of martial law. South Korea's Joint Investigation Headquarters said it saw Yoon's arrest on insecurity and abuse of power charges. The Joint Investigative Team, which is made up of officials from the Corruption Investigation Office of high-ranking officials, the police and the Minister of Defense, said it saw the arrest warrant after the impeached leader ignored 3 summonses to appear for questioning. Still in South Korea, the government said it will conduct safety inspection of all Boeing 737 and 800 aircraft operated by the country's airlines as they struggle to determine what caused the plane crash that killed 179 people yesterday in one international airport. The interim government said it would carry out the audit of all of South Korea's 101 Boeing 737 800 models with U.S. investigators, including Boeing, possibly joining the probe. South Korean officials have struggled to determine exactly what caused the deadly plane crash. The plane, operated by South Korea's budget airline Jeju Air, kicked off a runway at Muan International Airport before slamming into a concrete fence and bursting into flames. Only 2 crew members survived the crash after they were pulled from the plane. With this last piece of news comes the end of our news bulletin. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.
In early 2024, Algeria started its 2-year mandate as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. It is a year that is marked by Algeria's tremendous efforts in fulfilling the strong commitment repeatedly expressed by the President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, to bring the voice of Africa to this central UN body. Algeria's priorities within the UN's main body include the strengthening of peaceful settlements and partnerships, supporting the role of regional organizations, promoting the role of women and young people in peace processes, and enhancing the effectiveness of the international fight against terrorism. For the year 2024, Algeria seized the opportunity to push forward for reforms at the UN Security Council. Algeria called for mobilizing efforts to restore the role of the Security Council and the United Nations, emphasizing the need to amend the injustice done to Africa, the only continent without a permanent seat and the least represented in the non-permanent seats category. Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Benjama, recalled that the heads of state and government had approved, through the adoption of the Pact of the Future last September, a fundamental criterion for the reform of the Security Council, namely the need to address as a priority the historical injustice inflicted on Africa and to treat the continent as a special case.
Algeria firmly supports the common African position as enshrined in the Esselwini Consensus and the Sirte Declaration. In the Pact for the Future, our leaders recognized as a primary parameter for the reform of the Security Council the necessity to redress the historical injustice against Africa as a priority, while treating the continent as a special case. We will have to translate the parameters across the board in the IGN discussion. The Security Council a cornerstone of the United Nations, was established in 1945 to maintain international peace and security. However, the world has changed a lot since then, and the Council compositions no longer reflects the current global realities. Its legitimacy and effectiveness are increasingly questioned. The current structure of the Council, with 5 permanent members holding veto power, is outdated. It is unrepresentative, and the Council is increasingly failing to meet its mandate.
This year, Algeria called for a major overhaul of the international counterterrorism framework, emphasizing the need for enhanced global coordination to confront escalating threats. As chair of the 1373 Counterterrorism Committee, the Algerian ambassador Ammar Benjama advocated for a rethinking of the current counterterrorism framework, drawing from Algeria's own experience fighting terrorism alone in the 1990s. Addressing the situation in Africa, Ambassador Benjama urged UN experts to focus on the most affected and vulnerable regions, saying that in Africa, poverty and despair fueled extremism. He added that weak institutions were vulnerable to infiltration, and a lack of opportunities became fertile ground for radicalization.
Daesh and its allies remain a serious threat, especially in areas of conflict in Africa and the Middle East. Though its ability to conduct attacks outside of its strongholds seems reduced, Daesh could easily resurge in Iraq and Syria if we reduce our effort to counter them. Additionally, Daesh's affiliates are growing in Africa. They are taking advantage of existing conflict. It is vital to remember that terrorism thrives in areas of political instability, underdevelopment, injustice. Successful long-term strategy against terrorism must absolutely address these root causes. We can't fight terrorism with military force or police force alone. We need to prioritize peace building, diplomacy, development, education, communication, and social medias to resolve the conflicts that gives this group a foothold. To defeat groups such Daesh, we need a global cooperation, collaboration with government, with regional institutions, and also with UN counterterrorism organization is crucial.
In the Western Sahara file, Algeria has continued to support Western Sahara's right to self-determination in 2024. In October, Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to the UN's efforts to find a political solution to the Western Sahara issue. Benjama emphasized the need for a peaceful and lasting solution, highlighting Morocco's obstacles to the UN mission's efforts. Algeria has specifically called out Morocco for human rights violations against the Sahrawi people, including forced disappearances, torture, arbitrary detentions, and extrajudicial executions. The Algerian government has urged the international community to intervene and support the Sahrawi people's right to choose their future through self-determination.
Western Sahara is a question of decolonization. It is recognized as such internationally and documented in all relevant UN reports and resolutions. The conflict in Western Sahara is a question of decolonization to which the realization of the right to self-determination is interlinked. This very question is on the agenda of the Fourth Committee of the General Assembly and the Special Committee on Decolonization. Morocco and the Frente Polisario, which the United Nations recognizes as the only legitimate representative of the Sahrawi people, are the two parties to the conflict in Western Sahara. They have accepted the settlement plan negotiated under the auspices of the OAU and the UN regarding the ceasefire agreement and the referendum for self-determination, as endorsed by the Resolution 690 of the Security Council in 1991. The ICJ advisory opinion of 16 October 1975 and the rulings of the Court of Justice of the European Union in 2016 and 2018 are indisputable. Morocco does not have any kind of sovereignty on the territory of Western Sahara. Most recently, on 4 October 2024, the Court of Justice of the European Union ruled again, confirming the cancellation of the EU-Morocco fisheries and agricultural agreements. It also reiterates that Western Sahara's territory is distinct from Morocco. Moreover, on 25 October of this year, the President of the International Court of Justice declared, and I quote, "It is in its advisory opinion on Western Sahara in 1975, the court referred to self-determination not only as a principle, but as a right of peoples, which was enunciated in Resolution 1514 of the United Nations General Assembly. No fait accompli can override the authentic and free expression of the people of Western Sahara to freely exercise its right to self-determination. A lie remains a lie, no matter how much baseless conviction is put into it and how often it is reiterated."
Regarding the Libyan issue, Algeria, on behalf of the Security Council's A3+ group, including Algeria, Mozambique, Sierra Leone and Guyana, has called on all Libyans to work together more closely to remove the remaining obstacles to the holding of national elections. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations said the A3+ group reiterated the importance of focusing on resolving the outstanding issues relating to the electoral process. The group also held the preparation of a new electoral process for a further 59 municipalities, as well as the appointment of a board of directors for the Central Bank of Libya, urging Libyan actors and institutions to refrain from any action that could undermine these positive steps.
Our group urges the relevant authorities to support the newly elected municipal leader